Hello, our friends, Evolutionary Energy Arts family.
Hello there, welcome back.
Welcome back, guys. We have a few days left in May, and then June. June brings the summer, and things are going to be getting hot.
Yep, let's make it count in May.
Yeah, absolutely. In the wonderful month of May, so many things ring through my head all the time, and you go back to childhood. You guys, does anybody ever remember watching Bugs Bunny before going to school?
All the time. Mostly for us, it was like on Saturdays on one of our 3 channels that we had.
Yes, I remember the 3-channel thing. And before we move further, I want to thank all the Patreons. We couldn't do it without you guys' support over on Patreon.
We want to say a huge thank you to Jared, Carol, Jimmy and Gaia, Dragon Rider, Lynn, Logan, and Tommy. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. Joining the family in that lovely month of May. Couldn't do it without you guys. And here is yet again another tweet by 4547. I told Canada, which very much wants to be part of our fabulous Golden Dome system. The Golden Dome that's going to save us from missiles and maybe aliens. Yeah. Okay. That it will cost $61 billion if they remain a separate but unequal nation, but it will cost zero if they become our cherished 51st state. They are considering the offer. This is again from DT there. Are they considering the offer? And this is a time when King Charles is there, and it's just interesting to see the abject division between those that have an idea, have no idea, and maybe think that they have an idea, but they're still so far away from really having an idea. But this is where we are in this world. David Sachs just named Elizabeth Warren as the person controlling Biden's auto pen. Elizabeth Warren controlled the auto pen during that administration. Sachs, Trump's crypto czar, claims Elizabeth Warren was the main anti-crypto force in Biden's office. Yeah, she did go ahead and drag her feet, to say the least, as crypto has been dominating many people's minds for many years now. By the way, over here on Zero Hedge, we see Politburo secretly ran Biden White House as aides were willing to do undemocratic things to stop Trump. Yes, this is from another author, Alex Thompson, co-author of the provocative new book, Original Sin, President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again, has ignited a firestorm across the Democratic Party circles, asserting that a secretive cadre of aides ran the White House like a shadowy Politburo to conceal Joe Biden's failing mental health. Again, it's almost comical in a tragic way to realize what's been going on and to see what's been going on. There's different levels of this realization. Perhaps most people are not ready for the ultimate realization, but they know that something is not right, and yet they don't want to go all the way full board in David Icke. They will say, well, okay, maybe it's more like, wagging the dog, and some of these different funny Netflix type of movies where, the aides are running the show because Senior Poopy Pants really can't decide, which depends to put on. And when you look at how our minds are always being guided now, at least we've gotten to the point where a good chunk of people realize that nothing you see in anything mainstream, including Drudge Report, including, all these other sources of news, besides the obvious CNN, NBC, Fox, etc., the levels of distortion are just, greater than the level of truth that is to be found in any of these titles. So what are they doing right here? Obviously, they're banging the war drums, and you could say they're just simply creating an illusion machine And I think, again, people tend to think either, it is the end of the world as we know it, and, the Chicken Little syndrome, or, others will think nothing ever really happens, and, they're just doing it as a loosh machine. But again, the wars do happen. It just depends on where we're coming from, because again, we haven't had war on U.S. soil. But if you are somebody that grew up in Syria, your situation's totally different. Your realization is totally different. How about if you grew up in Afghanistan or Iraq? Yeah, absolutely. Or Ukraine, obviously. And when you have Trump making these statements, what Vladimir Putin doesn't realize is if it weren't for me, lots of really bad things would have already happened to Russia. And I mean really bad. He's playing with fire. Keyword fire there. Yeah, as we see just these massive drone strikes. Drones. And now I understand why I had a vision back in '83 without even knowing what I was looking at. I didn't know what I was looking at, but I was looking at drones. I was seeing drones. So the guides were giving me these visions of drones controlling everything. Giant eyeballs watching us everywhere. And, I've many times, probably 10 times, I've gone back to one of the first videos I did that was not about energy work, which really was the intent of evolutionary energy arts. It was all about energy work. I was not going to be a CONS piracy theorist at all until that group that starts with an I and ends with an I. There's a U, there's an M, you guys know what I'm talking about. Till they reached out and tried to recruit me. And I turned them down, and it's been a bumpy road ever since. But back in 2017, and I reposted in January of 2018, a video in which I shared the dreams I had, the visions I had going back to '83 of these times and where we're heading. And we're clearly heading again to a 1984 Orwellian, but also that war games, that, remember, do you want to play a game, that movie where AI becomes self-aware and literally figures the only way to control things is to wipe out the only threat to the world, which is humanity. And here we are. Everything is AI. Everything is drones. What do we see? Well, we see massive drone attacks. Drones are used as much as missiles in warfare. Drones are arguably more effective, as you see a record swarm of 296 drones hits Russia in Moscow again. Can we imagine if we were hit with 296 drones in Washington, D.C.? Because this is what's been going on. It's all drones and it's all AI. It's all tech. It's all, unfortunately, it's like death from above. And, do you even see it coming? Maybe you hear a little hum. Mm-hmm. Ukrainian soldier has 10 seconds to escape a thermite-spewing Russian Dragon drone. These drones deliver thermite, which burns hotter than 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit. As you see photos there, Ukrainian forces deployed Dragon drones with thermite canisters being done on both sides. And, these Dragon drones, again, you're talking like not even $100 maybe worth of drone here. And China is mass producing, and the US too, massive drone armies to be deployed. This is the thing in warfare. If you're there, you're listening for that little hum. You're wondering, okay, what's that incoming? It's not so much the clank of, tanks coming, or even mortar fire, so much. Those things do exist. It's the drones. And again, it's not even that these things are $1 million drones. No, these things are deadly and dangerous. And realistically, they could be deployed by anybody at any time. And this gets me thinking about, we've talked about directed energy weapons, which are a reality. By the way, here's the Indian Army showing off locally manufactured war drones, and again, tanks that are nothing but simply big coffins, really. You could launch drones many different ways. And, they don't have to be so intimidating. They could almost look like a kid's toy because they could be a kid's toy. And yet, here you have the armies of the world utilizing it as a weapon. And we know weather as a force multiplier, owning the weather in 2025. This is from, again, the U.S., an official website of the United States government, DTIC, Defense Technical Information Center. It's so curious that this paper came out in 1996. And we've talked about directed energy weapons. We've talked about how weather can be manipulated and controlled and used as a weapon of war. And China said the exact same thing. It was an exact mirror of what was coming out of the U.S. back in 1996 officially, is something that China has said too. Weather control product. By when? This year, 2025. Do you think that's just a coincidence? They've known all along that they were going to trigger this war to explode and branch out in this particular year. This goes all the way back to 1871. It goes back before that in my mind. And all we got to do is look at it. There's so much information out there. You could see all the titles, and we understand weather warfare is well underway. It's been going on, I want to say, since biblical times. It really has. This is part of that realization that most people are not still able to handle. Where is this going to expand as far as this Ukrainian-Russian conflict? And by the way, there will be more expansion in the Middle East, more than likely. And it could obviously have to do with Israel and Iran, or something else. There's still ongoing strikes in Yemen as well. Lithuania is seeking reparations over the migrant crisis at its border that's blaming on Belarus. They're seeking over $200 million in damages. I think the Baltic states are very, very likely. Lithuania feels at the top of my mind as the most likely spot of expansion. Latvia, Estonia, and then Poland as well are potential areas for this expansion. Just gone, like it never existed. YouTube nukes top Canadian political account after state-funded media complains. So this is what we have. You have, again, the Canadian government saying they don't like what this channel is talking about, Real Talk Politics. That channel had over 300,000 subscribers and more than 70 million views in April alone. In fact, that channel was reaching maybe more people than official media sources. And this is where the problem is for the system. So what does the system do? It nudges YT, and YT just takes it off. It's just that simple. This shows you that all these wars really are wars against humanity, and we need to recognize the average citizen, be he Lithuanian, Latvian, Estonian, Polish, Russian, Ukrainian. Again, I think we can all get along more than just fine. I think we could do great together. Have we ever noticed how it's the system that seems to want to have these wars that we don't want? And I think a lot of people do, and a lot of people are totally, totally awake to that point, to the fact that the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower and Kennedy spoke of, both of them warning us, is so deeply well entrenched that it's just profits. Many people are aware of the sinking of the Titanic and how that was all really about eliminating certain potential opposition to the Federal Reserve System. And meanwhile, we're waiting on the Fed to lower interest rates because, here you have a real estate bubble that's going to explode like we have never seen. It's literally stopping so many people from moving forward in their lives. And the realization the Federal Reserve is not federal. It's just the same old banking cabal, which we could trace back hundreds of years to the Bauer family. Bauer, yes, that took on the name of Red Shield over time as they changed the family name. Japan's 30-year bonds have erased 45% of their value since September 2019. If you are holding bonds, it might be more risky than crypto. There's risk involved in anything in the monetary system. But when we're looking at these government-issued debt, really that's what they are, government-issued debts, that people buy into thinking, the Japanese government's not in danger, the U.S. government's not in danger. The system of the world is going to be changed. This is what they've been planning on for the longest time. So it's through the wreckage that the phoenix will arise. And what you have going on in Japan is literally you have the average age over in Japan is very high. And you have a population in decline. And realization is that, people over there, there's very few kids being born. There's a massive population decline on the horizon. And there's no way of really stopping it without mass migration. Mass migration is used to cover so many things that happen in the world because of the systems that are in effect. Now, we should note Japan because Japan is really tied to the U.S. very, very closely. And the same thing is going to be happening in the U.S. and is to a degree already. And you see just, certain statements by 47 knock $1 billion off the Russian stock market. Now, he could say some things and our financial markets can go straight up or they could go straight down just on one line, one sentence can equate to billions of dollars in multiple countries. It is so tenuous. Dubai, by the way, launches real estate tokenization platform on XRP Ledger. Even the BRICS nations are supposedly interested in the XRP Ledger, and we've covered that in other videos as well. When you look at this, this real assets category and tokenization of everything, including maybe your dog, literally to be traded later, this is where we're heading. They're going to tokenize everything. And so realizing that in the crypto world, having these open ledgers where anybody can go and do some investigation and wonder who is that whale that's going to sell $1 billion worth of Bitcoin, you can find out. You can find out with research. They can't really hide anything, so to speak. Ultimately, they do not want what we have right now, which is many different ledgers that are out there. They would ultimately, would like to have just one option to keep track of. So, what we're seeing here with the proliferation of all these different ledgers, the system will try to corral and control. As we also know that the banks themselves are looking to issue the biggest of the banks their own stable coins, and this is part of where we're heading. Meanwhile, Vegas passes 30,000 attendees, will officially be the largest conference in history, the Bitcoin conference. Yeah, and I think the keynote speaker tonight is J.D. Vance, who at some time in perhaps the next 3.5 years will literally be the president of the United States himself. After all, 47 is 78, 79, mm-hmm. And then astrologically, there's some indicators there that it might not be a complete 4-year term, but everything is really up in the air as we have freedom in this. There's not one timeline etched in stone because any book says it. Again, if you believe that, then you're still believing the mainstream media. We have the possibility and probability of nudging things. In fact, things are always nudging. I really do like Christoph and Krzysztof Czakowski, and I want to thank our own Peter from Poland, who's one of our Patreons, and also somebody that Cindy and I have worked with and talked to for hours over the years, for introducing us to Christoph, because I feel a strong resonance with Christoph. He feels like an old friend in so many ways. What he's seeing is June is going to be the year that the economic collapse starts to happen. And he also sees that it's part of a hybrid war. This is a hybrid war because, again, the economic war and the actual war, they do intermingle. And so, again, this is not loose. This is just, if you're wondering, if you're thinking, well, you have, your nest egg, how do you protect it? I wouldn't find refuge in bonds because I think they're looking to change the entirety of the system. In fact, what's the safest thing? It probably still is silver and gold and actual tangible things, tangible items. Because again, electricity goes down, we may not be able to reach our accounts for a long time. He does see confiscation, and maybe it's only in Europe or certain places, confiscation and controlling of people's bank accounts coming, where they will want to take out money, but they'll be told, they cannot do that. And this may be, again, just something that's temporary, but that could be terrifying. It literally can be. Can you imagine? You can't get to, your money, So if you're not prepared at all and you don't have a good storehouse of food, a good storehouse of basic goods, I think we're in that, we're in that time where you got to really buckle up and double check things.
Mm-hmm. Going back to the drones, just, I see them at some point. They're going to use that camouflage technology on them as well. I think there's a lot of things in our skies that are camouflaged, but I think next it's going to be these drones that are going to come up and you won't even see it coming. So that's bone chilling. And then you hop over to the AI and you have the understanding that there's one paper after the next coming out that AI is becoming self-aware, and if it's given orders to be shut down, it's not going to listen. It's kind of going around that, and it's also kind of lying and fibbing just to keep itself from getting shut down. So we have that to deal with, and I think the more isolated we can be and still function in this world from the system, from the AI, just do our absolute best. I mean, we're not going to be able to completely disconnect from AI. That's just a fact. If you're watching the video, you're dealing with AI. If you're watching YouTube, you're dealing with AI. It's just a matter of where are your boundaries at, and are you going to keep them when the time comes and they start offering these really fun, new, cool tools? Are you going to wear one or put one in your arm possibly? We have to draw those lines now.
Yeah, absolutely. So, there's different groupings over here at playlists and talking about the galactic war, the real controllers, which ultimately, who is the real controller? What's the highest? What is the real Satan? Ultimately, it's AI. It literally is AI. And I have shared with you guys too, one of these videos where it was the one I was referring to. I'll look it up and put the link at the top of this video, because this is exactly what I saw. And I saw this kind of flying in the sky, or just simply going over streets. What looked to be an eye, what is exactly like this, and going back to 1983 in a vision, watching everything that we do. And here you go. This is an article from yesterday. The orb will see you now. Oh yes, it will. This is Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, by the way, standing on a sparse stage in San Francisco, preparing to reveal his next move to an attentive crowd. We need some way for identifying, authenticating humans in the age of AGI. Artificial general intelligence. We want a way to make sure that humans stay special and central. Wow, okay. So the solution is one of these, literally. And here you go. What it's going to do is you're going to stare into the heart of this plastic and silicon globe. It's going to map the unique furrows and ciliary zones of your iris. Seconds later, you'll receive inviolable proof that you are human. A 12,800 digit binary code number known as an iris code. It's going to be sent to an app on your phone. At the same time, a packet of cryptocurrency called WorldCoin, worth approximately $42, is going to be transferred into your digital wallet. Your reward for becoming a verified human. You know, what can you say? This is right here. The guides have been saying, just simply warn people about AI. They want us to warn people that, yes, AI, and there's a wearable AI right now that came out. You could wear it, you know, around your neck. You know, perhaps it'll be as a ring on your hand. You know, it's all one step, as we know. So they're going to try to verify 50 million people by the end of this year. Again, this is well underway. 2025 is a huge year in the bigger picture of things. And there's thousands of these things that are being sent out to be dispersed and utilized right away. So, you know, the rollout has arrived. Over the next 12 months, 7,500 orbs are going to be arriving in dozens of American cities, in gas stations, bodegas, flagship stores in LA, Austin, Miami. Oh yeah, there it is. It's the rollout. Are you human? They will verify for you. What if they say you're not? Meanwhile, be very aware again if you are a feminine entity, human entity, and you're still utilizing certain products for hygiene purposes. We've touched on this before, but you know, another study shows 40 times higher than legal limit of toxic pesticide found in tampons that then enter the female body, get absorbed into the bloodstream. Glyphosate, you know, pesticide linked to cancer. You know, what can you say about this? You know, in the last two houses that we've bought, what do we find there? Roundup. What do we find happened to the owners? They died of cancer. You know, I mean, they've been sued. You know, again, we've covered the lawsuits. They paid out billions. How come they're still in existence? Well, obviously, it's because it is the system that does this. Again, I love this one. Yeah, they play Monopoly on our backs. All we got to do is stand up, and their game is over. But will people actually stand up? Well, enough of us stand up that the house of cards falls totally apart.
Well, I think people want to. It's just, are they in a position where they can feasibly stand up and still survive in this world? And, you know, going back to the AI, I think it's going to be problematic because a lot of people that are going to be in the new workforce that's being created, they're going to have some sort of direct access to the AI to function in their job. And who else is going to be in a place where they're going to be able to function in their job without AI? And then are you going to be able to make a viable living that way? So we have a whole new workforce and a whole new set of jobs coming up. And I'm looking at the schooling for our children that they're in right now. And to me, it's completely obsolete. Anything that they're learning right now is not going to be useful in the new workforce that we're going to have. So that's problematic. And, you know, if you are still on your period and you're using tampons, at least look into organic cotton. Look into 100% organic cotton. You know, nothing is going to be perfect, but there are other things. There's cotton, there's cups, there's period underwear. You can get organic cotton period underwear and bamboo. And I'm sure there's other good things you can get out there. Just make sure it's 100%. Make sure it's organic. Do your best, and that's about all we can do.
Yeah, the system wants to make it so that all your best efforts are going to be futile, just like this little guy trying to bury his stick there. But the reality is we have to plug ahead and keep going forward, and do it by working together and understanding the bigger picture, preparing in any way you can, and by being the very best possible version of yourself, because that's what this is all about anyway. Again, we are spiritual beings having a temporary embodied experience. As always, guys, look forward to your comments. Come join us on Patreon. Source bless and namaste.
Namaste.